Hey guys, tonight we slip behind the curtain of ancient fame, where the torches burn low and the crowd begins to chant. You don't walk, you're shoved, sand crunches under your feet, the gates behind you groan shut, and the air smells like blood, sweat, and something vaguely... From the perfume a senator dumped over himself in the front row. He waves, you don't wave back. A horn sounds, that's your cue. You're not just stepping into an arena. You're stepping into the most high-pressure spotlight the Roman Empire has to offer. And yes, you're shirtless, always shirtless. Why? Because shirtless gladiators bring in ticket sales, that's why. The roar of the crowd rises like a wave. Somewhere in the sea of faces is your trainer, your sponsor, your not-quite girlfriend, who also might be married to someone important, and about 17 children who have you etched onto their wooden toys at home. The stakes? Oh, just your dignity, your ribs, and your life. No pressure. If this story helped your brain take a nap, go ahead and tap like, maybe even subscribe if you're feeling wild. It's free, no pressure. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there, and how you're doing, truly. Now, take a breath, you're in the sand. You move forward slowly, knees stiff from yesterday's training and the cold iron of your greaves. To your left, a man with a trident sneezes. The sneeze echoes. You both pause. And then, as if on cue, the ritual begins, circling each other like tired cats with a grudge. You're supposed to put on a show. You can't just stab and be done. This isn't the military. This is theater. Theater with sharp objects and minimal bathroom breaks. You lunge. He parries. The crowd gasps. They like that. Someone throws a flower. Someone else throws a roast fig. It hits you square in the ear. Still, this is the dream, right? You made it. You're a star. Back in the barracks, things are a little less glamorous. The wooden bunks smell like sweat and oil. Your gear is piled in the corner, still damp. Your neighbor snores like a dying goat. You try to sleep, but your muscles twitch with leftover adrenaline. Tomorrow you might be in the ring again, or hauled off to recite poetry at some noble woman's dinner party. Because being a famous gladiator doesn't mean you belong to yourself. You belong to everyone, especially if you're good. And you're too good. That's the real curse. If you were mediocre, maybe they'd let you fade away quietly. Instead, your name is scrawled on tavern walls and scratched into amphorae. Lucius the Thunderer. They call you that now. You hate it, but try telling 1,000 chanting fans that. They think they know you. They cheer for you like you're some kind of heroic symbol of Roman virtue. Truth is, you're just really good at not dying. Yet. The emperor was at your last fight. Did he clap? Number. But he did raise a single eyebrow, which for him is basically a standing ovation. That's when things change. Suddenly, you had better food, fewer beatings, a cleaner tunic, and a new schedule that included public appearances, banquets, and one awkward poetry reading where you had to wear a wreath and recite verses about noble conquest while trying not to trip over your own sandals. Because once you're a famous gladiator, you're not just a fighter, you're a symbol, a tool, a fashion icon, sort of. You're the face on someone's wall. Historians still argue whether gladiators were truly loved or merely fetishized. But when someone leaves a chunk of their hair at your cell door with a note that says, "Use this for strength," it gets weird. Fast. And let's not forget the audience. They chant your name with such fever that you'd think you were saving the empire, not just dodging spears. Some fans cry when you win. Some faint. One carved your initials into their thigh. You tried not to look. The fight ends. You win. Barely. There's blood in your mouth. Yours? His? Doesn't matter. You're pulled aside for a victory wreath. The flowers are fake. The applause is not. A senator's daughter winks. You pretend not to see. The senator doesn't. Back in the corridor, you pass the next fighters. They don't look at you. They never do. You're on another level now. A level that comes with perks, yes, but also consequences. They know what you don't say out loud, that the higher you rise, the more likely you are to fall publicly. There's a superstition among the junior fighters. They whisper it while taping their wrists. When the crowd knows your name, the gods mark your days. It means fame isn't armor, it's a target. You return to your quarters and scrub off the grime. The bath is lukewarm. A servant hands you a fresh tunic. You don't know his name. You feel guilty for that. A little. Outside, someone's already carving your likeness into stone. It'll stand outside a bakery, they say. Bread and bruises, that's what Rome runs on. You lie back on your cot and stare at the ceiling. The torch flickers. In the distance, you hear a girl laughing. Not just any laugh, her laugh, the one from the stands, the one who always brings the purple scarf. She's with someone else. You hope it's not the senator. You hope it's not your trainer. You hope it's not someone who thinks you made a promise. Tomorrow, you'll be back out there. You'll swing, you'll bleed, you'll win. And you'll keep pretending that being a famous gladiator is exactly what you always dreamed of. Back when you were just a boy with a wooden sword, hoping someone would notice. They noticed. Now you wish they'd blink. You wake up to someone yelling your name, not in fear, not in love, in branding. Lucius, the Thunderer, wake up, you've got a statue unveiling. You groan, not because you're tired, though you are, but because your back still hurts from yesterday's spear dodge, and because the statue is probably wrong. Again, last time they gave you a six-pack you don't have and a nose you wish you had. You sit up. The tunic someone left at the foot of your bunk still smells like pressed lavender and old bronze, the scent of a sponsor's ego. The moment you step outside, 3 servants descend on you like bees. One rubs oil on your arms, one adjusts your hair, one just hovers nervously with a scroll, muttering about scheduling. You haven't had breakfast, but you have had enough of this. Being famous feeds the beast. That beast is Rome, and it has an appetite for faces, stories, and drama. You're not a man anymore. You're a myth with really sore shoulders. The streets are already thick with people, some of them holding crudely painted boards with your face in trident. There are chants. A woman throws you a fig. You catch it. Reflex. The statue is something. You stand beside it, trying to smile while your sponsor makes a speech about valor and manliness and the spirit of Mars. The crowd claps at all the wrong moments. The statue has you flexing mid-kill, eyes wild, teeth bared. You look like you're biting into a watermelon, not defending yourself from a Germanic axe. Do you like it? Your sponsor asks, beaming. It's tall, you say. He takes that as a compliment. Later, someone hands you a scroll with the latest graffiti catalog. Yes, that's a thing now. Turns out citizens have been scribbling your name and various body parts on tavern walls from here to Ostia. You try to laugh. You also try not to think about how this is somehow legally part of your fame package. See, once you're known, people want access. Merchants want to name bread after you. Bards want to write embarrassing songs about your legendary thighs. One time, a woman sent you an entire jar of honey with a note that just said, "For the strong." You never opened it. You're still not sure if it was flirtation, mockery, or a murder attempt. Some gladiators crave the attention. They preen. They flirt. They practice smiles and polished shields. You tried that once. It felt like lying to your own reflection. And yet, there's power in being wanted. There's a moment, in the arena, with the crowd chanting your name, where the noise becomes a drug, where for a split second you're more than yourself. You're a god with a blade and everyone is praying to you. But the moment ends fast, always does. You remember one guy, Julius the Hammer, huge, loud, famous. Women carved his name into their arms. At one fight, they threw silk scarves at his feet. Then he lost bad. The next morning, the same women were chasing his replacement. No one visited him after that, except his mother. Historians still argue whether gladiators enjoyed their fame or endured it. The records are a mess of contradictions. Some letters suggest gratitude, others depression. Some became public speakers, even minor politicians. Others vanished entirely. You've thought about vanishing. But then there's the scarf girl again. You see her in the Forum, laughing with her friends, tossing her curls like she knows the sun's hitting her just right. She sees you. She doesn't wave, but she knows you saw her. That's how it works. You've received over 24 love notes in the last moon cycle. Some are sweet, some are intense. One included a tiny glass vial labeled Tears of Admiration. You didn't ask how they were collected, but you did read all of them. Some days, you wonder what it would be like to just be a baker, a real one, with a little stall and an apprentice who doesn't try to duel you in the courtyard. But then a group of schoolboys sees you walking and they lose their minds. One yells, "Do the spin!" You sigh, you do the spin. They cheer, your feet hurt. It's not all bad, you get the best olives. People give you things just for existing. A senator once gifted you a miniature statue of yourself inside a golden egg. You didn't know how to react, still don't. And there's a weird kind of protection in being famous. No one mugs you. Thieves nod respectfully. Street performers step aside. Dogs, however, still bark like you owe them money. By midweek, your face is on a coin. A cheap one, sure, but still. You're technically currency. That's not nothing. But it's also exhausting. Everywhere you go, someone wants a story. What was it like fighting the Thracian giant? Terrifying. Did you really beat 3 men at once? Yes, but one was asleep. Do you sleep in your armor? Number. That's insane. You start to lose track of what's true and what's just performance. Did you actually kill that one guy with a single blow, or did the crowd just want to believe you did? You can't remember anymore. And sometimes it gets dark. One evening, you find a note tucked into your cot. It's written in delicate handwriting, and it says simply, "You're not just a fighter, you're mine." No name, no hint, just that. You burn it. And then, you train hard, because if the crowds love you today, they could hate you tomorrow. All it takes is one slip, one bad fight, one newer, prettier face. You spar until your arms ache. You memorize your footwork. You perfect the dramatic pause before the final strike. Not because you want to, because you have to. Fame is a flame, beautiful, bright, and absolutely determined to burn through everything you are. You crawl into your bunk, roll onto your side, and try to sleep, but your name is still echoing in your ears, chanted, whispered, carved, and tossed through the streets like confetti. You wanted to be remembered. You just didn't expect to feel so invisible under all the noise. You're in the prep room again, the one with the cracked columns and the one-eyed guard who snores louder than the lions. The room smells like olive oil and regret. A boy, maybe 14, rubs bronze dust into your arms to make them pop in the sunlight. You sneeze. He doesn't even blink. Because now it's not just about winning, it's about presentation. Welcome to the bizarre world of ancient Roman glamour, where you, a trained killer, must now also worry about your hairline. One of the stylists fusses with your tunic. Not that you'll be wearing it for long. That thing comes off the moment you step into the arena. Why? Because the fans want skin, and sponsors want that skin glistening. So, more oil. Then the makeup. Yes, makeup. A thin layer of red ochre across your cheeks for that sun-kissed warrior glow. A hint of charcoal around the eyes for drama. Makes the whites pop, says your stylist who used to work on temple dancers. You miss temple dancers. At least they got to choose their eyeliner. And then the sandals. Not just any sandals, endorsed sandals. Yours are stitched with a tiny lightning bolt. Lucius, the Thunderer, brand. Someone is selling these in the Forum right now for more than a loaf of bread. And they're uncomfortable. The straps dig into your ankles. But image is everything. You step out into the prep corridor, past the trainers and the armor racks and the poor newbie vomiting from nerves. He's got mismatched greaves. You almost say something, but it's not your place. Not anymore. You're above all that. A pro. A name. And being a name means walking into the arena like you know the sun is following you. The crowd roars. You roll your shoulders. A merchant shouts that he's got a new line of tunics in your honor. Now in blood red and victory black. You're just glad you don't have to wear them. But as you raise your weapon and let the sunlight catch your oiled skin, something in your shoulder twinges. Not pain, just a little warning whisper. The kind that says, you're not 20 anymore. Not that anyone would know. Your public image is carefully managed to appear eternally lethal and permanently 30. This entire show, the oil, the makeup, the sandals, it's curated. It's about control. Because Rome needs its heroes. It needs someone to pin hopes and gossip on. And that someone is you. There was a time you didn't mind. The first time a girl screamed your name in the street, you almost blushed. The third time, you started flexing on instinct. The 20th time, it started to feel hollow. like a statue of yourself you couldn't stop sculpting. Historians still argue whether the glamour was voluntary, whether gladiators were truly idolized or just packaged for propaganda. Some letters suggest gladiators liked the attention. Others hint at breakdowns, runaway attempts, even ritual shaving to destroy one's public identity. Shave your head, burn your armor, and disappear into the countryside. You've thought about it. But then someone stops you on the street. A young woman with ink-stained fingers and shy eyes. She asks if she can sketch you, not fight you, not feed you grapes, not propose anything weird. Just draw. You let her. And for a moment, you feel seen in a way that doesn't itch like too tight leather. Of course, the moment ends when a drunk vendor throws a cabbage at your head and yells, "Show us the thunder, Thunderer." You do not show them the thunder. Back in your quarters, the stylist is waiting. She's got a new oil. "Imported from Gaul," she says. "Smells like crushed pine and danger." It smells like moss and pride, but you nod. Because here's the thing about fame. It doesn't let you stop. If you don't refresh, rebrand, reinvent, someone else will. There's a new kid in the lower barracks who just beat 3 men with a broom handle during training. He's taller than you, younger, doesn't wear makeup yet, give it a week. You run through a new combat routine. Half of it is choreography. The other half is figuring out which angles make your chest look best when you dodge. It's absurd, it's exhausting, it's kind of funny in a sad, glittery way. There's a rumor that next week's games will include a mock sea battle in the arena with water. You're not even scheduled to fight, but your face is on the promotional fresco. So, you'll be there, smiling, holding a fake trident, praying your sandals don't slip on wet marble. And then there's the fan mail. It comes in scrolls, scribbled notes, and occasionally, terrifyingly, small boxes. You once got a toe ring, not your toe ring, just a toe ring, no explanation. You still keep it, tucked inside your satchel. As a warning, as a trophy, you don't know. Some fans send poetry. One woman writes in blood, or beet juice, you hope beet juice. Another sends you a lock of hair braided into the word win. Creative at least. Sometimes you read the notes and imagine what it would be like to just pick one. Settle down, retire, marry the poet or the painter or the grape seller's daughter with the soft eyes and the enormous dog. But you can't, not yet. Not while your name still sells sandals. You strip off the oil-slick tunic and collapse into your cot. The moonlight filters in through a crack in the ceiling. It lands on your gear, your branded gear. Helmet with the gold crest, shield with your initials. You miss your old helmet. It didn't match your aesthetic, but it fit better. Didn't pinch. Fame feeds the beast. And you're the bait. You're summoned before dawn, not to fight, not to train, to perform. Apparently, the Emperor wants to see you toss a net dramatically and look powerful. That's the entire request. You're not sure what powerful looks like at 6 in the morning after 3 hours of sleep, but you throw on your light armor and drag yourself to the palace courtyard anyway. A servant girl greets you with a yawn and a golden pitcher of honey water. "The Emperor is in a theatrical mood today," she says, as if that explains everything. You thank her with a nod and brace yourself. The thing about being a famous gladiator is that you're no longer just a fighter. You're a spectacle, a status symbol, a novelty gift wrapped in muscle and myth. The Emperor doesn't just own you, he shows you off. You're Rome's favorite pet, and today you're the featured act at a breakfast party. He watches from a shaded couch, draped in purple, surrounded by half-asleep nobles pretending they're not freezing in their togas. One woman claps slowly as you lunge and pivot and reenact a fight you didn't enjoy the first time. Someone hands the Emperor a plum. He eats it like he's bored of both you and plums. But if you stumble or look tired or, gods forbid, yawn, that's not just disrespect, that's insult to him, to the empire, to the whole concept of glorious death-mongering entertainment. So you smile, you shine, you glisten with effort. You're the Emperor's favorite toy. That's dangerous. Because when the Emperor takes interest in you, your world changes. You get better food, softer sheets, fewer whippings. Your wine doesn't taste like vinegar anymore. Someone dusts your statue. Nice perks, right? Until he really takes interest. Like last week when he borrowed you for an afternoon garden party. Not to fight, no, just to stand beside him shirtless, pouring wine and answering questions like a talking statue. What's your kill count? Do the scars itch? Can you actually read? You nod, you flex, you don't answer the last one. You're not sure if they want you to read. Afterward, one of the emperor's friends, a bloated noble with the breath of old cheese, offers you a private commission to pose with properties. You decline, politely. He doesn't like that. Your trainer gets scolded the next day. You get 3 extra rounds of sandbag drills. Historians still debate whether the emperor saw his favorite gladiators as heroes, pets, or possessions. The records are conflicted. Some gladiators were elevated to legendary status, even given estates. Others were discarded like broken toys after a bad match. You think of Gaius the Red. He was the last favorite. Everyone loved him, until he caught the flu, lost 1 fight, and was quietly retired. No ceremony, no coin, just gone. The kind of gone where people stop saying your name, like it's cursed. Being wanted by the emperor is like balancing on a sharp edge. It sparkles, it glows, but it also cuts, especially when the attention turns personal. There's a rumor, whispered in the baths, that a certain noble woman has asked the emperor for you, as a gift, for her birthday. You hope it's not true. You also know hope is weak in Rome. A few days later, you're summoned again, not for battle, for dinner. With her. She's charming. Her eyes gleam like someone who's never heard the word no. You answer her questions. You eat slowly. You decline the wine. You laugh at her jokes. You deflect when she asks about your training. You avoid the subject of your schedule. Because if she asks the emperor to assign you to her villa, and he agrees, that's your new home, possibly forever, with no armor, no fights, just endless afternoons of poetry and flattery and walking shirtless through grapevines while she tells guests to admire the physique. You escape, this time, by offering to train her nephew as a favor. She beams. The nephew is 9 and terrified of loud noises, but at least he's not trying to braid your hair while you pretend to like figs. Back in your quarters, your trainer gives you a slow nod. He heard about the dinner. Everyone has. Word travels fast among servants. You keep being the favorite, he says, and you'll never get to leave. He doesn't say what leave means, but you know, retire, escape, vanish, the opposite of display. There's a moment, in the middle of the night, where you wake from a dream. You are free in it, no tunic, no title, just you, in the hills, by the coast, selling fruit to strangers who didn't know your name. You miss that version of you, the one before the lightning bolts and cheers. Someone knocks, or it's a messenger, new schedule. You've been invited to appear at a senator's daughter's wedding procession, not as a guest, as a highlight. You stare at the wax seal, break it, read the details. You'll be riding a painted horse, in full armor, holding a banner with a poem that she wrote about your unyielding strength. It rhymes, poorly. You think about the boy in the barracks, the new one, and wonder if he envies you. He probably does. Most do. They look at your gold-stitched sandals and think, that's the life. They don't see the rest of it, the forced smiles, the stage poses, the way you sometimes forget how your own voice sounds when no one is watching. The crowd still loves you, for now. But the emperor, he gets bored easily. The first letter you ever got from a stranger was smeared with violet wax and smelled like lilac. You just won your 3rd fight, and someone had somehow gotten close enough to your cell to slip the scroll under the door. It was short, 1 line, but it stuck in your mind. When you fight, it feels like the world stops spinning. You read it 3 times, not because you believed it, but because it felt nice. Someone out there wasn't just watching, they were feeling, because of you. Now, 5 scrolls sit on your cot, today's batch. 2 smell of perfume. One of them is sealed with a kiss, actual lipstick. Another just says, you looked angry yesterday. I liked it. That one's from someone who signs only with the symbol of a crescent moon. The truth is, women adore gladiators. Not all of them, of course, but more than you expected, and not for the reasons you'd think. Sure, you've got the muscles, the swagger, the heroic aura, but what really gets them? It's the story, the tragedy, the danger, the idea that you might die tomorrow, that every glance could be your last. You've become walking poetry, bloody, dramatic, half-dressed poetry, and Rome eats it up. There's even a betting game now. Who will win the Thunderer's heart? You're the prize. You didn't agree to it, but that doesn't matter. Every week, noble daughters giggle behind fans and swap rumors about who got closest. One claims she touched your hand during a parade. Another says you made eye contact and lingered. You were probably just looking for the fig cart. Of course, attention feels good, especially the first time someone gasps just seeing you walk by. It's flattering for about 5 seconds. Then it becomes heavy, like a net you can't shake off. And it gets worse. Because the more attention you get, the more it bleeds into your real life, into the way guards look at you, the way servants whisper, the way your trainer sighs like he's lost you to a perfume-scented fog. You once tried to flirt back, just once. She was smart, sharp eyes, knew her history. You talked about battle strategies over wine, laughed a lot. You thought maybe this could be something real. Then she asked for a lock of your hair, for her collection. You didn't stay for dessert. Still, they keep coming. Some are sweet, some are dangerous. One woman claimed she saw you in a dream, said Jupiter told her you were destined to be hers. You laughed. She didn't. That night, someone scratched her initials into your shield. Historians still debate whether these women loved the men behind the blades or just the fantasy. One scribe noted that gladiators were objects of both lust and pity, admired in the arena and avoided in the forum. Another called them the empire's most adored prisoners. That part stings. Because you are a prisoner, just a really well-oiled one. Some girls throw flowers, others throw notes. One noble's daughter threw herself onto the track during a parade. You had to carry her off, pretending it was all part of the show. She giggled the whole way. You never learned her name, but her perfume haunted your gear for days. You get letters asking for favors, for meetings, for parts of you, sweat, hair, blood. You're not sure who started the rumor that gladiator fluids are aphrodisiacs, but now vendors sell essence of thunderer in tiny vials. You hope it's just water. You pray it's just water. Once a woman invited you to her villa for a private feast. You declined. Next day, a basket of honeyed dates showed up with a note. I admire your restraint. Let's test it further. You didn't eat the dates. You gave them to the lions. Even they looked suspicious. There's no way to move freely anymore. Even simple errands to the smith, the bathhouse, the temple become parades. Someone always notices. They nudge their friends. They giggle. They follow. You took a side alley once just to breathe. Big mistake. A girl, maybe 17, cornered you with a poem. It rhymed blade with shade. She recited the whole thing while her friend tried to sketch your profile. It would have been cute if you hadn't been late to drills and returned to 50 extra push-ups. The worst part? You start to wonder if you miss it when it stops. One week, after a bad loss, the crowd was quieter. No notes, no flowers. You told yourself it was nice, peaceful, but something gnawed at you, like you'd been erased, like you'd forgotten how to exist without an audience. That's the trap. The attention feels like air until it turns into a vacuum. You still remember the baker's daughter, dark curls, kind laugh. She once handed you bread and said, "You look tired." No flirting, no poems, just tired. You almost cried. You think about her more than you should. Tonight, as you lie in your bunk, you find a new note slipped beneath the door. It's different. No perfume, no hearts. Just one line. Do you ever get lonely, or is the cheering enough? You don't sleep well. It starts with a glance. One glance, across a banquet hall thick with smoke and soft music, and suddenly everyone freezes. You don't even realize you've done it. You're reaching for another honeyed figs, and your eyes catch hers. She's the daughter of a magistrate, or maybe a cousin of one. High status, low impulse control. She's wearing too much gold and not enough linen, and now she's smiling. You try to look away, you fail, and just like that, you're in trouble. Because flirting back, even accidentally, is a game with blades on both ends. You're not supposed to ignore the noble women. It's rude. But you're definitely not supposed to encourage them either. That's suicidal. And when you're famous, every move is noticed, every eyebrow twitch is translated into romantic intent, every polite smile becomes a scandal waiting to happen. Your trainer warned you, don't give them stories, he said. Once they think they're in one, they'll write the ending with your blood. You laughed at the time. You're not laughing now. Later that evening, you find her again, not on purpose. She appears like a cat, silent, certain, and slightly terrifying. You fight like a god. She purrs, tracing a finger along your arm. You try to deflect. Gods don't sweat this much. She laughs. She has perfect teeth. We all sweat. The difference is, yours glows. You're pretty sure that's not how sweat works, but you smile anyway, because you're cornered and everyone's watching. She invites you to her father's estate. Just for dinner, she says. You'll love our garden. You give a vague maybe and excuse yourself to check on your sword. She sends you a new tunic the next day, embroidered, expensive, slightly too tight in the arms. There's a note tucked inside. For when you decide to stop pretending. You don't wear it, but you do fold it neatly, and that's already too much. The whispers start soon after. Servants gossip, other gladiators nudge and smirk. One guard offers you advice on how to survive a noblewoman with a thing for scars. You laugh. He doesn't. He just says, careful. They get possessive. Historians still argue whether gladiator noble romances were real, tolerated, or just spicy fan fiction passed around by bored scribes. Some records hint at secret affairs. One even ended in a triple stabbing during a dinner party. Another tells of a gladiator gifted a villa by his lover, then executed for dishonoring the Republic. You don't know what that means, but it sounds final. It's not just noble women. There's pressure from everyone. Sponsors push you to smile more. Parade hosts want you to wink at the crowd. You've actually been coached on controlled flirtation, smile ratio, eye linger time, how to bend while picking up a spear in a suggestive yet noble way. You miss fighting boars. One day, a messenger delivers a small wooden box. Inside is a carved pendant, a tiny replica of your helmet, strung on a golden chain, no note. You recognize the craftsmanship. It matches a bracelet you saw on her wrist. You keep the box, not because you're flattered, because you're scared to throw it away. A few nights later, you're summoned to her villa. Not invited, summoned. Your sponsor is there, sipping wine, smiling like this is all part of your career plan. You're escorted through marble halls lined with statues of gods, all of them less polished than the one she had made of you. It's in her garden, life-size, shirtless, holding a rose. You hate it. She greets you with both hands. I knew you'd come, she says. You didn't, not really, but here you are. Dinner is lavish. You don't remember the food. Just a feeling of being watched, measured, unwrapped with every word. She talks about philosophy, about poetry, about how she sometimes dreams of blood. That last one makes you pause. She doesn't notice, or maybe she does. When you try to leave, she says, softly, if you walk away, you might not walk again. You freeze. She smiles. I'm joking, of course. She's not. Back in your quarters, you sit on the edge of your cot, armor still on, and wonder how you became a pawn in a game no one warned you about. You're a celebrity, a champion, a public fantasy. But now, you're also someone's prize. And she doesn't like to share. You stop going out alone. You avoid public events. You pretend to be sick when parade season starts. It buys you 2 days. Then your sponsor shows up, furious. You embarrassed her, he says. Do you understand what she can do to you? You do, that's the problem. One morning, you find a gift on your pillow, a rose, blackened, preserved in wax. Symbolic? Probably. Disturbing? Absolutely. You burn it, quietly. Then you train, hard, until your shoulders scream, because pain is the only thing that feels honest anymore. You think of the girl with the crescent moon symbol, of the baker's daughter, of normal women with normal lives who might have liked you for something simpler than spectacle. But now you're branded, claimed. Flirting is no longer harmless. It's a political act, a survival tactic, a gamble. And you're starting to run out of good cards. You try to slip out early. Not from a fight, not from a feast, from yourself. Just a walk. That's all you want. A walk to the river. Maybe buy a roasted date. Watch the boats. Breathe air that doesn't smell like sandalwood and weapon polish. But even dressed down, plain tunic, hood up, sandals dusty, it takes 3 streets before someone whispers your name. Is that the Thunderer? A child points. Someone jogs to catch up. You turn a corner too fast, knock over a basket of pears, and end up apologizing profusely to an old woman who squints at your face, then gasps. Blessed Mars, it's you. And then the game begins. They follow you, not out of malice, just enthusiasm, like pigeons chasing the scent of something shiny. You smile, sign a wax tablet, try to retreat down a side street, only to find a small group already waiting. Someone must have run ahead. Word travels faster than chariots these days. You make it to the river eventually, but not alone. 3 boys are there. They offer you skewers of grilled fish, ask about your last match, beg for stories. You indulge them. You like kids, they don't pretend. One asks if your armor is magic. You say yes. He beams. Then you spot the scribe. At first you think he's a merchant, but his sandals are too clean, his fingers too ink-stained. He doesn't speak. He just watches, writing something. You leave. Because privacy, for you, is no longer a right. It's a scheduling issue. Being famous means living in public, even in private. Every step, every breath, every half nod could be tomorrow's rumor. Last week, someone claimed you were engaged. To whom? No one knows. But the story stuck. You got 3 congratulatory scrolls and 1 heartfelt betrayal poem from a woman named Livia, who may or may not be real. Even inside your own quarters, it never feels truly yours. Servants come and go. Stylists rearrange things. Your armor's always being polished, your sandals moved, your schedule adjusted. Once, someone rewrote your training slate with perfume ink. It sparkled, you sneezed. And there's always someone outside, always. They wait, lean against walls, peek through cracks, pretend to be lost, just long enough to glimpse the Thunderer on his way to brush his teeth. Sometimes you joke about it with the others. Lucius can't even sneeze without someone composing a sonnet. Your sparring partner grins. You fake a smile because he's not wrong. You try escaping through routine, training at odd hours, sleeping mid-afternoon. But they adapt. The fans, the flatterers, the curious. They know your rhythms better than you do. There's a woman, you don't know her name, who leaves gifts, not bad ones either. Dates, a carved comb, even a tiny sandal that fits the statue of you outside the bakery. You should be flattered. You're just tired. One morning, she leaves a locket. Inside, a miniature painting. You, shirtless, heroic. The background, your actual training yard, which means she was close. Close enough to watch. Close enough to sketch. Close enough to make your skin crawl. You bury the locket in the dirt behind the barracks. The next day, there's another. You ask your trainer, half joking, what does a man have to do to vanish in Rome? Lose, he says without blinking. Lose. It's not the answer you expected, but he's right. The quickest way to disappear is to fail. The fans move on, the attention dies, you fade, replaced by the next gleaming name. Historians still puzzle over how much control gladiators had over their own lives. Some think the fame was empowering, a way to climb, to earn, to escape slavery. Others argue it was a gilded leash, tighter, crueler, because it smiled as it choked. You lean toward the second. Because no matter how much you earn or how loud they cheer, you're still expected to perform. Even when you're tired, even when you're bleeding, even when you're grieving. Last month, a fighter you trained with, Tiberius, was killed in the ring. Badly, sloppy match. You didn't sleep for 2 nights. But the next morning, parade. You wore silver. You smiled. You waved. Because that's the price of fame. It eats your grief and calls it professionalism. Some days you envy the unknown fighters, the ones who spar hard, win quiet, sleep deep. No scrolls, no statues, no girls climbing their garden walls to accidentally bump into them shirtless. You remember one girl, small voice, soft hands. She asked you if you liked being known. You didn't answer, because you don't know anymore. There's a weird guilt that comes with the attention, like you're supposed to be grateful for being adored. And in some ways, you are. You've eaten better than most. You've slept in silk. You've ridden horses through flower-strewn streets with strangers shouting your name like it meant something holy. But none of it is yours. Not your time, not your face, not even your silence. Tonight, as you lie in bed, someone hums outside your door, a tune you don't recognize. High, lilting, sweet. You don't open it. You don't want to know who's singing. Because if you do, you might care. And if you care, they win. They wake you before sunrise, not with shouting, but a soft knock, too soft for anyone who means well. Your door creaks open, a servant enters without looking at you. He leaves a scroll at the foot of your cot and vanishes like fog. You already know it's bad. You sit up, stretch, read. It's not a fight, it's not a parade. It's a sponsorship deal. Apparently, you're now the official face of a new sandal brand called Gloria Solea. They want you to pose beside a fountain, holding your helmet like an apple, looking warrior proud but poetically distant. You wish that were a joke. It's not. The scroll ends with, "We've sent 3 tunic options. Choose the one that screams noble but approachable." You don't scream anything before breakfast. Downstairs, the team is waiting. Stylists, scroll runners. A man with a paintbrush who swears the light off your left cheekbone is blessed by Apollo. You say nothing, you let them oil you, powder you, dress you. This is your life now, half warrior, half billboard. There was a time when gladiators just fought, but then the empire realized something. Death is good business, but branding is better. Your name's been licensed to amphorae, honey cakes, and a line of children's toys shaped like little wooden swords. They squeak, you've seen them. Today, it's sandals. "Stand a little wider," says the painter. "Now look like you've just won a moral battle." What does that look like? You ask. Like someone who's seen sorrow, but has good posture. You stare off into the middle distance, mostly because you're thinking about the fresh blister forming on your heel. These aren't your actual battle sandals, these are sponsored sandals. Decorative, useless, designed by someone who's never seen a fight and probably faints at the sight of a paper cut. You try to focus. There's a stipend in this, extra coin, maybe enough to bribe your way out of the next poetry recital. But it still feels like selling something you didn't know was for sale. Your name, your face, your entire existence as a commodity. Back at the barracks, your gear is missing. You ask a guard. He shrugs. They took it, said the museum wanted it for the Thunderer collection. You blink. Museum? Turns out someone's been curating pieces of your life. Not just armor, your sparring tunic, a wax cast of your hand, a lock of your hair. How they got it, you'd rather not know. There's even talk of sculpting a life-size tableau. You, mid-swing, frozen forever in bronze. You want to be flattered, you really do. But you mostly feel hollow. Because if they own your image, your weapons, your name, what's left? Even your friends treat you differently now. The newer fighters either idolize or avoid you. The older ones smirk, call you coin boy, ask if your next fight will be choreographed by a poet. They're not entirely wrong. Last week's match ended early, and they made you redo it, for dramatic effect, a second take, with better angles. You didn't even pretend to be surprised. Historians still bicker over whether Roman gladiators had autonomy in these sponsorship deals. Some argue they gained prestige and leverage. Others point to records of forced contracts, verbal coercion, and, in rare cases, staged injuries to keep a gladiator available for market use. You're pretty sure you're somewhere in the middle. You've asked your sponsor if you can fight less, not retire, just less, more time to rest, to read, to breathe. He laughed. Less? My dear Thunderer, you're at your peak. No one paints figs without color. Why fight the sunlight? You wanted to say, because sunlight burns. But instead, you nodded and went back to training. Even that feels different now. You're not training for war. You're training for optics, making sure your back looks good when you block, that your swings are clean enough to be painted. They don't want blood, they want imagery. And worse, they want narrative. You're not a man anymore. You're a brand arc, the orphan turned warrior, the killer with a heart, the thunderbolt who weeps. Your story's been rewritten so many times, you're not even sure what's real anymore. Was your father a blacksmith, or did they make that up? Did you really win that match in 2 strikes, or was it 4? Did you ever get a moment of silence that you chose? Tonight, after drills, you visit the fountain, the one from this morning's portrait. A child is there, playing with a wooden version of you. He's got it fighting a goat. The goat is winning. You sit beside him. Do you like him? You ask, nodding to the toy. He shrugs. He's okay. I like the red wolf better. The red wolf died 3 months ago. You watch the toy hit the water. The goat follows. You smile sadly. At least someone gets to be free. The day starts hot. Not Rome in summer hot. Furnace in the underworld hot. The kind of heat that makes armor cling and your breath tastes like boiling bronze. You'd love a rest day, maybe a quiet nap, a cold plum, but the scroll on your bunk says otherwise. It's a fight. And not just any fight. A special engagement. That phrase alone makes your stomach turn. Special usually means high profile, high risk, and decided by people who've never taken a punch in their lives. You read the fine print. Your opponent is a foreign champion. Exotic, mysterious, terrifying, etc. He's been paraded through 3 cities like some kind of mythical beast. The crowd is frothing for this one. You'd like to keep your spleen. Still, you don't get to say no. Because here's the thing, once you're famous, you fight who they tell you to fight. No more picking fair matchups. No more skipping rounds to recover from last week's dislocated shoulder. The fans want a show. The emperor wants a show. And if you're breathing, and still mostly attached to your limbs, you fight? Your sponsor's beaming. This is your moment, he says. Rome loves a legend. You want to ask, what does Rome do with dead legends? But you keep your mouth shut and start wrapping your wrists. Out in the prep hall, the usual chaos reigns. Armor squeaks, trainers shout, someone singing off-key in Gaulish. You stay quiet, focused, trying to summon some sliver of calm, but the pressure sits on your chest like a slab of marble. Even your fellow fighters are edgy. No jokes today, no casual shoulder punches. They all know, if you lose, it means something. If you win, it has to look glorious. And if you get hurt, well, just don't bleed on the new banner. You remember when fights used to feel simple, not easy, but clean. 2 men, 1 match, no fanfare, no scrolls passed out describing your signature combat style. No artist sketching your warm-up lunges for tomorrow's market fresco. Now, there's lighting. The arena has been rigged with polished bronze panels to reflect the sun just right. The sand's been raked, someone scattered rose petals, and the crowd is chanting your name, like it's part of a ritual to summon victory. You step into the light, you blink, you pose, because you have to. Your opponent steps forward, tall, scarred, he nods. Respectful. Great, now you'll feel bad if you gut him. The horn sounds. You circle. He's fast, you're faster, but he's stronger and hungrier. You can see it in his eyes. He doesn't care about scrolls or sandal deals. He's not here for the show. He's here to win. The match stretches, minutes feel like hours. You dodge, you feint, you sweat so much you might actually dissolve. The crowd is losing it. They love the dance, the drama, the tension. Your trident skims his shoulder. He grunts, comes back harder, you slip. For a heartbeat, everything stops. You're on one knee, the blade is above you. And then, you laugh. It bursts out of you, absurd and raw. Because of course, this is how it goes. Of course the famous one ends up on the ground while a stranger from nowhere gets ready to end the myth. But the crowd gasps, not at you, at him. He hesitates. It's long enough. You roll, rise, strike. A blur, a scream, the match ends in a heartbeat. He goes down. Not dead, but close. You stagger back, raise a hand, someone throws a garland, it hits your chest like a sack of turnips. Victory. Everyone's thrilled. Except you. Because that wasn't skill, it was luck, and you can't count on luck, not with stakes like these. Back in the prep room, they're already planning the next big match. They talk like you're not there. Someone says, let's pair him with 2 fighters next time. Maybe 3, push the limits, see how far he can go. You sit, you breathe, you stare at the wall. Because there's no stopping now. They won't let you. Historians still debate the ethics of these forced legends. Some say the pressure built discipline, forged steel from flesh. Others argue it broke men, quietly, without scars. A slow collapse beneath the weight of public obsession. You know where you stand. You're tired. Of being watched, of being needed, of being asked to risk everything so someone can sell another amphora with your face on it. You visit your opponent in the infirmary. He's bandaged, half asleep. He looks at you and whispers, "Was it worth it?" You don't know how to answer, so you nod. Because that's the job. Later, a child brings you a drawing. You in the arena, glowing like a god, sword raised, enemy flat on the sand. You thank him. You keep it. You hang it next to your armor. And that night, you dream of fighting someone you choose. For no reason, no crowd, just you and the quiet. It starts, like most things in Rome, with a scandal. You're in the middle of drills, knee-deep in dust and sweat, when a runner bursts into the courtyard waving a scroll like it's on fire. You ignore him at first, until he calls your name. Then he whispers something in your trainer's ear. Your trainer groans, not a grunt, not a sigh, a groan, the kind that says, well, we're screwed. Apparently, a senator's wife, a very married senator's wife, has written a poem about you. More specifically, about your unyielding arms glistening like fresh forged bronze, and how you smiled like Mars before a storm, which sounds flattering except for the last line. Take me like you take the sand, with fire, with fury, without asking. You didn't write it, you didn't encourage it, but the scroll's signed and sealed. She read it aloud at a dinner party. And now her husband wants your spleen on a platter. The guards arrive within the hour, not to arrest you, not yet, just to escort you to a private discussion. You know what that means. Rome doesn't do direct confrontation. It does whispering threats, veiled insults, and the occasional subtle poisoning. You're paraded through the back corridors of the arena, up into a villa with walls so white they hurt your eyes. The senator greets you like a host, offers wine, doesn't smile. You've made quite an impression, he says. You apologize, carefully, politely, over and over. He nods. You're a gladiator, he says, not a politician, not a poet. Do you understand? You nod. Good, then stay in your lane. And just like that, the conversation is over. You walk out intact, but with a brand new reputation, homewrecker. It's not your first time. This happens more often than you care to admit, because being a famous gladiator doesn't just bring fans, it brings problems. Rome is full of women trapped in loveless marriages, stifled expectations, and an obsession with power. And you're living, breathing power. The dangerous kind, the thrilling kind, the kind their husbands can't control. You don't have to try, you just have to exist, be seen, and suddenly you're the lead character in their escape fantasies. And their husbands know it. You once received a note from a noblewoman's servant asking if you'd be willing to duel her husband. For fun, you declined, politely. You got food poisoning 2 days later. Historians still debate the role of gladiators in Roman romantic culture. Some sources say they were idolized like rock stars. Others say they were used, then discarded. A few suggest that gladiators were seen as both holy and filthy, untouchable yet touched by all. You get it now? Because no matter how noble your stance or how strictly you behave, people will twist you into the version they want. To one woman, you're a secret lover. To another, a symbol of rebellion. To a third, just something to gossip about over olives. And when it spills into your real life, things get dangerous. There's a knock at your door late one night, not from the front, the back. You draw your blade, slowly. A woman's voice, soft, nervous. I just want to talk. You crack the door open. She's alone, cloaked, eyes wide. I had to see you, she says. They say so many things. I needed to know what was true. You don't invite her in. You don't touch her. But you listen. She talks about her life, her marriage, her boredom, and how she once saw you save a fellow fighter in the ring. Not for show, but for real. I knew, she says, that you are more than they say. You thank her, kindly, firmly, and you send her away with dignity. But the next morning, there's a rumor. They say you ran off together, that she's pregnant, that you're going to challenge her husband in a duel so passionate it will shake the heavens. You spend the next 3 days answering questions, dodging glares, and getting pulled from 2 training exhibitions for your safety. The woman, she's vanished. Sent to a villa in the mountains, out of sight, out of your life. You write her a letter, unsent, just to get the words out. You say thank you, you say sorry, you say nothing Rome would understand. Then you burn it. Because anything written becomes part of your brand. You used to think the worst part of fame was the pressure to perform. Now you know, it's being everyone's fantasy and no one's person. Even the noblemen get strange. One approaches you at a bathhouse, drunk, laughing. She wrote a poem about you, he slurs. My wife barely speaks to me, but she dreams about your arms. You freeze. He laughs harder. Don't worry, I'm not angry. I just wish I had your charm. You excuse yourself, fast. You never return to that bathhouse. You switch routines, avoid crowds, keep your head down, but nothing helps. You've become an icon, a story, a problem. And the more you try to pull away, the more people chase. You're not a man anymore. You're a mirror. Everyone sees what they want in you, and you're so exhausted, you start forgetting what you see. That night, you sharpen your blade until it's surgical. You don't need it, but the sound, the rhythm, it reminds you of something solid, something real. You look at your reflection in the steel, and for a brief moment, you see him again. The man beneath the myth. The rooster hasn't even made a sound, and already you're sweating. You're not in the arena, not under the sun. You're in the campus, the training grounds, where gladiators are forged, broken, rebuilt, and broken again. It's the heartbeat of the whole ugly machine. And even if you fought 100 matches and your face is on sandals, you're still expected to show up. Every day. You don't get to skip just because you're famous. In fact, because you're famous, they watch you harder. You're expected to lead, to lunge better, lift more, bleed less. Even when your knees ache, your shoulder stings, and your back feels like it's being held together with spit and stubbornness. You train harder than the rookies because the rookies are watching. If you slack, they'll think it's okay to slack. And then someone gets stabbed. It's not about discipline anymore. It's about performance, even in training. This morning, your partner is a Thracian named Darius. Fast, smart, brutal in a way that doesn't read as mean, just precise. You like him. He doesn't talk much, which in this place feels like mercy. Ready? He asks. You nod. Then he kicks your feet out from under you. Training has begun. You spend the next 2 hours in a sandstorm of blows, grunts, blocks, falls. You taste blood by the second round. Yours? Probably. Doesn't matter. You're wearing your public gear, the armor with gilded trims and your emblem on the pauldron. It looks impressive. It's also heavier and less practical, but the sponsor insisted. This is what they paid for, he said. This is the Thunderer. You almost corrected him. No, I'm the Thunderer. That armor is just a prop. But you didn't. Because here, your opinion is worth less than your image. By mid-morning, your ribs are bruised, your right elbow won't straighten, and someone's carved your name into the wooden bench by the barrack showers. Again, you collapse onto the sand beside Darius. He offers you water. You pour half of it over your head. The rest you drink like you haven't seen liquid in a decade. He chuckles. You're sweating like a senator in a brothel, he says. You laugh, sort of. Because there's truth in that. Being a gladiator is a job. Being a famous gladiator, that's a second job. The first job breaks your body. The second one breaks your mind. There are no off days. Not really. Last week, you missed training once. Once. You were on a litter with a fever and a cracked rib. The next day, scrolls saying you were losing your edge. A mural popped up showing you sleeping in a wine barrel. Thunderer needs his beauty nap, it said. You didn't even own a wine barrel. But the joke stuck. That's the thing about this life. There's no room for fatigue, no room for injury, no room for being human. If you win, you're a god. If you lose, you're a fraud. Historians still argue whether gladiator training was more brutal than battle. Some say it was ritualized, rhythmic, even elegant. Others claim it was endless punishment disguised as preparation. The truth? Somewhere in the dust, sweat, and barked orders that make up your every morning. The training master, Vibius, is a former champion. You respect him, mostly because he doesn't care about your fame. He treats you like everyone else. Worse, maybe. Today he shouts, "Again!" You groan. He grins. Thunderer doesn't groan, he thunders. The others laugh. You groan again, louder. That earns you an extra round. Because training isn't about fairness, it's about fear, about keeping the edge sharp, about reminding even the golden boys that one bad fight, one lazy dodge, and it's over. You've seen it happen. Lucan, unbeatable for 6 years, got sloppy with his footwork, trip, slip, stab, dead. Aurex, the smiling Gaul, pulled a shoulder muscle in training, missed a match. Crowd moved on. Now their names are footnotes, scribbled in fading chalk near the sparring pit. You remember them, because you know you're 2 fights away from becoming them. That's why you train until your arms scream. That's why you keep your shield up even when your body begs to drop it. That's why, when your knee gives out mid-sprint, you bite the pain and keep running. Because the crowd doesn't care about sore knees. They care about the story, the legend, the thunderer who never falls, even if you're falling on the inside. By midday, your muscles are done. You stink. You can't tell if the ringing in your ears is from a hit or just another enthusiastic fan somewhere outside the gates. You head to the baths. Even those aren't relaxing anymore. There's always someone watching, peeking through the steam, whispering. You once had someone try to sneak a sketch of you in the nude. You caught them, they offered to pay. You declined, politely, with a scowl. Now you bathe early, or late, or not at all. Darius joins you. He nods toward your bruised arm. They'll ask you to fight tomorrow. You shake your head. Can't. I'm scheduled for a sandal fitting. He stares. That's not a joke, is it? Nope. You sit in silence for a while, both of you soaking in warm water, the smell of oil and salt clinging to your skin. You look down at your hands. They still shake sometimes, from adrenaline, from fatigue, from everything. One day you think you'll leave the campus. Not just to fight, not just to smile for a portrait, but to leave. Maybe buy a farm, grow olives, let your hair go gray in peace. But not today, because tomorrow there's a new match, a new sponsor event, and someone already wrote a new cheer song about your latest victory. They rhymed thunderer with plunderer. It doesn't even make sense, but they love it. And that means you have to train. The sand never leaves you. It clings to your feet, crusts in the folds behind your knees, scratches at the corners of your eyes when you blink. It nestles inside your armor, gets into your food, hides in the hems of your tunics. You once found it between your teeth. You haven't fought today, haven't even trained, and still, when you undress, there it is. A fine layer of it in your underclothes, like a mocking reminder, you belong to the arena. You scrub, vigorously, pointlessly, it won't go. The arena is everywhere now, even in silence, even in sleep. You dream of it, not of the fights, but of the waiting, the long, hot moments behind the gate, when you can hear the crowd buzzing like bees in heat, and the wood beneath your feet feels like it might buckle under your heartbeat. You stand there, with your weapon slick in your hand and a single thought echoing, don't trip, don't freeze, don't die stupidly. The dreams leave you sweating. You used to think it was the matches that would haunt you, the killing, the screams, the blood. But it's not. It's the performance, the slow burn of anticipation, the expectation that every breath, every step will be seen, measured, memorized. And even outside the arena, the show doesn't stop. A baker calls to you in the street, offers a discount for the thunderer. A group of children ask you to recreate your signature move, which apparently involves spinning while shouting a line you've never said. You spin anyway, they cheer. Later, a merchant stops you. He's painted your face on a jug. You're smiling in it. Could you sign it? He asks. You do. He asks you to smile like the jug. You try. It feels wrong. That night, you lie on your cot and try not to itch. There's sand in the blanket. It doesn't help that your quarters aren't private anymore. The guards let people peek in. Just a glance, they say. He's not sleeping, is he? You once woke to a stranger gently touching your armor on the wall. You didn't scream. You just stared. He ran. You keep the armor closer now. Not for protection. For privacy. You used to have a little pouch, a charm inside, a scrap of leather from your mother's sandal, braided with a coin you found the day you arrived. It was nothing, and everything. You used to rub it before fights. One day, it was gone. No one admitted to taking it. But 2 weeks later, a vendor in the Forum was selling authentic Thunderer relics. One looked familiar. You didn't ask. You didn't want to know. Historians still argue about the afterlife of Gladiator's belongings. Some were buried with honors, others were stripped, sold, turned into trinkets. One even had his skull gilded and used as a wine cup at parties. You try not to think about where your elbow guard from last season ended up. What's strangest is how normal the weirdness has become. You now check your sandals for notes. You now assume people are watching when you stretch. You now expect strangers to know your birthday better than you do. One fan sent a map of your life, color-coded, labeled. It included your training schedules, rumored romantic encounters, and top 10 kills by dramatic flair. It was disturbingly accurate. You used it to find a shortcut to the bathhouse. Thanks, fan. But none of it compares to the arena itself. That space, that circle of sand and sweat and screams, it doesn't just mark your schedule. It rewires your mind. Now, when you walk into any open space, you automatically calculate visibility, escape routes, lighting, angles. You can't help it. It's instinct. You once walked into a dinner party and flanked the host from the side because the lighting was better there. He laughed. You didn't mean it to be funny. The sand gets into your brain. It settles in the cracks, reminds you that no matter how famous you are, no matter how sweet the wine or how soft the cushions, you're still a body in a pit performing for survival. And the arena knows you. It remembers every step you've taken, every drop you've spilled. It soaks in your triumphs, your failures, your secrets. You once cried in the arena, not from pain, from relief. You thought you'd lost, and then you hadn't. Your opponent slipped, the fight ended, and you wept quietly behind your shield. No one saw. You hope? Now, every time you step onto that sand, you wonder if it remembers your tears, if it waits for more. They say no one wins forever. They also say the arena gives you what you deserve. You're not sure what you deserve anymore. But you do know what you've given. Blood, sweat, time, sanity, privacy, parts of yourself you can't even name anymore. And in return? Fame, coins, fans, portraits, sand. So much sand. You brush your shoulder, it's there. You open your scroll pouch, it's in the folds. You shake out your cloak, more sand. You think someday, when they finally bury you, they won't need to dig much. You're already half dust. You don't remember when it started. The statues, the carvings, the little charcoal sketches sold near the market that make your jaw look sharper than it ever was. One day, it was just you and your trident. The next, you were everywhere. Your face is on coins now, not official currency, but close enough. Small bronze discs that street vendors use for gambling tokens. One side, your face. Other side, a lion mid-roar. The resemblance is generous. There's graffiti too, some of it flattering, some creative. The one outside the Forum reads, Lucius the Thunderer, stronger than Mars, softer than goat cheese. You're still not sure what it means. People love it. You've become something strange. More than a man, less than a god. You're a thing. And everyone wants a piece. Last week, a merchant asked if he could bottle your sweat. Not metaphorically, literally. For fragrance, he said, masculine, earthy, with notes of leather and victory. You declined. He offered 500 denarii. You declined louder. The worst part? You're not even shocked anymore. Just tired. Your sponsor doesn't help. He loves the attention, thinks it's good for business, wants to roll out a line of bath salts called Thunder Wash. The logo? You holding a sponge. In a sultry pose. You laughed. He didn't. He already ordered the first batch. He keeps bringing you updates like they're honors. They've made another mosaic of you, he says like it's a badge. You're in 5 new plays this month. One of them has you slaying a basilisk. You've never seen a basilisk. He doesn't care. Everywhere you go, people are performing you. Kids swing wooden tridents. Grown men at taverns quote lines you've never said. A bard recites a ballad in the square. He came like thunder, he left like wine. You don't drink wine. You left through a side door because someone threw olives. This isn't fame. This is replication. You're being copied, repackaged, resold. You once overheard 2 soldiers arguing over your birthplace. One swore you were from Britannia. The other insisted on Sicily. You're from neither. You tried to correct them. They ignored you. You stopped trying. Historians still argue over how self-aware gladiators were about their iconography. Some inscriptions suggest pride, others deep bitterness. One fragment found in Pompeii reads, "They know my face but not my name. May the sand forget me first." You understand that. Because lately, you don't feel real anymore. People recognize you, but they don't see you. They see what they've built, what they've bought. You smile the way they want. You stand how they painted you. You flex on cue. Even the servants treat you like decor. One polished your greaves the other day and said, "I used to pray to a statue of you. Funny how much shorter you are in person." You just nodded. At least she didn't ask for a lock of your hair. That happened twice. You do have fans who feel sincere. A few. You remember a letter from an old man who'd lost his son in a border skirmish. He wrote, "When I watch you fight, it feels like someone's still standing for him." You kept that one. But most messages are strange, or shallow, or wildly inappropriate. One woman sent you a miniature wax doll shaped like you. It included a removable tunic, and you lit it on fire. Your likeness has started showing up in places even you didn't expect. A mural in a bathhouse, a plate, a pillow, an amphora with handles shaped like your arms. You found it funny until you saw a child drinking from it and calling it Daddy Thunder. You've become everyone's property. And with that comes the pressure. To always be perfect, powerful, unflinching, to never trip, never hesitate, never lose. Because if you do, the illusion cracks. You remember a bad fight, not a loss, just awkward. The opponent was slow, the crowd was bored. You slipped on the sand and landed hard. Didn't matter that you won. The scrolls mocked you for a week. Thunderer stumbles. Is age catching up? You're 29. You got extra drills for that. More pain, more bruises, more sand. Because if you're going to be worshipped, you must suffer like a god. And gods don't complain. But you do. Quietly, to yourself, to the wall, to the stars sometimes when sleep won't come. You wonder what it's like to not be known. To walk through a market and have no one care. To spill figs and not have it reported in a poem. To smile and not have it copied onto a tapestry. You miss your own voice. You find yourself talking less because anything you say might be remembered wrong. Rewritten, reposted. You once told a fan that victory feels like silence. They published it in a pamphlet under the quote, "Thunderer, victory is silence," and added a picture of you yelling triumphantly. You stopped saying anything after that. You try sometimes to reclaim parts of yourself. You kept a broken piece of your first trident. It's hidden beneath your bunk. You touch it when you need to remember the start. The boy you were, the fear, the fire. You wonder if he'd recognize you now. You wonder if he'd be proud. Or just exhausted. They offer you a way out. Not freedom, not peace. Retirement. The scroll arrives sealed in gold ribbon, which is always a bad sign. Nothing good comes in gold ribbon. It usually means either a marriage proposal, a branding deal, or news that you've been selected for a statue unveiling you didn't approve. This one's worse. It's official. You're eligible for libertas, freedom, if you survive one more match, just one. It sounds good. It should sound good. It's what you've been promised all these years, right? Fight well, earn fame, buy your freedom with your own blood and discipline, walk away. But you've seen what retirement actually looks like. You've seen him. Decimus the Bright. 12 years in the arena. Everyone loved him. There were scrolls, mosaics. They gave him a golden laurel at his final fight. People cried, he waved. It was glorious. 2 weeks later, you saw him in the Forum, sitting on a barrel, selling sandals. No one recognized him. You called his name. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. I used to be someone, he said. You told him he still was. No, he replied. Now I'm someone who used to be someone. That's retirement. They give you a pat on the back, a small pension, and a final round of applause. And then, silence. The cheering stops. The scrolls move on. The murals are painted over. And all you're left with is a worn-out body and a name that echoes in places no one visits anymore. So now you sit with the scroll in your hand, staring at the phrase, "Final match for freedom." You want to scream. Because here's the cruel twist. They still don't ask if you want to fight. Even your exit is a command. You show it to your trainer. He frowns. It's a trap, he says. They'll load the match, make it memorable. You'll win if the crowd wants you to, or die spectacularly if they don't. You nod. You already knew. Historians still puzzle over how many gladiators truly retired. Some records say many lived long lives afterward, ran schools, opened bathhouses, became bodyguards. Others suggest the retirement match was just a new kind of execution, one last performance with a sharper spear. You've seen too many final matches that ended with thunderous applause and a quiet funeral. The scroll says your match will be ceremonial, symbolic, with themed choreography and high-profile guests. You know what that means. They want a show, one you might not walk away from. You read it again. Your heart doesn't race. It doesn't even flinch. That's what's scary. The apathy. You think, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll win. Maybe I'll disappear. You think, maybe I won't. You visit the statue garden that evening. You have 3 now. 1 in bronze, arms raised, 1 in marble, mid-kill, and 1 made of mosaic tile, smiling awkwardly like you've just told a joke and don't know if anyone laughed. They're beautiful. They don't look like you. A young woman approaches while you're staring. She's holding a scroll. Her hair is braided in the style of the priestesses. Long, heavy, elegant. I wrote you a poem, she says. You force a smile. Thank you. She hesitates, then asks, will you still fight after you're free? You pause. That's the other part no one tells you. Even if you retire, they'll still ask for you. Beg, plead, offer coin, land, lovers, whatever it takes to get one more match, one more thunderer performance. And worse, sometimes you say yes. Because once you leave, the silence gets loud, fame fades, and you wonder if the fight was your identity all along. You've seen former champions return, just once, they say, just to prove they still have it. Most don't. The girl hands you the scroll and slips away. You don't read it. You walk the city that night, hooded, quiet, no one stops you. They don't recognize you anymore unless you're bleeding or shining. You pass Decimus again. He's not selling sandals today, just sitting, staring. You sit beside him. He doesn't speak, neither do you. 2 men who were gods once, now shadows watching the sun set on something they didn't own to begin with. Eventually, he says, they think they're giving you freedom, but what they're really giving you is an ending. You nod. You think of the next match, the crowd, the banners, the painted lion on your new shield, the girl in the stands with the fig in her hand, the emperor, the blood, the moment you either walk out or don't. You think of what it means to be done, and whether that's peace or just emptiness. You don't sleep. The scroll sits on your table, half unrolled. In the morning, you sign it, because you'd rather end your story yourself than let someone else write your final chapter. You wake to silence. No drums, no shouting, just a steady murmur of breath inside your chest and the wind brushing the curtain at the far end of your cell. You stare at the ceiling, the day of your Libertas match. Your last one. Maybe. Your armor has already been laid out, polished, ornate, heavy with expectation. Someone's taken the liberty of etching Vir Liber onto the chest plate. Free man, a joke maybe, or a prophecy. You sit up, slowly. Everything feels heavier than usual, not because you're tired, but because it matters. Or at least it's supposed to. They've planned this one like a festival. Special guest seating, floral garlands, a bard set to perform a farewell anthem between rounds. You're not sure if it's meant to be a fight or a funeral. As you eat your breakfast, figs, salted cheese, stale bread, a young scribe arrives with a scroll and a quill. They want your last words recorded, he says, for the archives. You stare at him. I'm not dead yet. He laughs awkwardly. But you might be. So, just a sentence? You take the quill. You write. You cheered, I bled, we're even. He leaves in silence. You try not to think about what happens after. Not if you die. That's simple, straightforward, a sharp moment and then silence. What haunts you more is the idea that you live. Because freedom, for someone like you, is not a meadow with a view. It's a small house in a town that doesn't care. It's empty mornings, cold food, a face in the mirror with no title, no task, no thunder. They don't prepare you for that part. They just say, survive, then vanish. You arrive at the arena early, not to stretch, just to be, to remember it without the roar. The architecture of your entire second life. The bones of this place hum under your boots. You close your eyes and let it fill your chest. The silence, the ghosts, the stories pressed into the very sand. Then the gate opens. Not the match gate, the tribute gate. That means ceremony first. You're paraded like a warhorse with musicians and flower throwers and a man who reads an epic poem about your legacy of thunder. You recognize some of the lines. They're from scrolls people wrote about you, not by you. You sigh. You see children holding dolls with your likeness. One drops theirs in the dirt. Another child picks it up, brushes it off, cradles it. For a moment, you feel like something real. The opponent? A champion from the eastern provinces, bare-chested, wrapped in snakeskin leather. No nonsense, no dramatics, just quiet rage. You like him immediately. The rules, no death unless the crowd demands it. But you know how easy that promise breaks when the sand gets red and the hearts beat fast. He nods to you before the match. That matters. The horn sounds. It begins. And it's glorious. Not because you're winning. You're not always. But because it's clean. Real. A fight for the sake of skill. Blade against blade. Breath against breath. You sweat through the armor. The crowd swells. Every strike feels like a heartbeat. And somewhere, mid-spin, mid-shield clash, you forget the pressure. You forget the end. You're just fighting. And it's beautiful. Until he cuts you. A clean line across the side, not fatal, but enough to stagger. The crowd gasps. He pauses, gives you the choice. You nod. He charges again. Because this is how you wanted it. Not a stage dance, not a curated exit. Just one last fight that meant something. And when it ends with both of you on your knees, panting, bleeding, half laughing through clenched teeth. The crowd screams for mercy. The Emperor lifts a hand, the thumb wavers, then turns. Not down, not up, but away. That's the signal. You both live. You rise. The announcer declares your freedom. There's applause, confetti, a horn solo that drags on too long. Someone hands you a scroll, a purse of coin, a wooden plaque that says Vir Liber in gold paint. You hold it like it's made of glass. And then you walk out. Not carried, not saluted, just walk. Into the shade. Into the silence. You pass the new recruits, wide-eyed, sweaty, whispering. They don't speak. You don't either. What would you say? They haven't learned yet. That being free means leaving the noise behind. You return to your cell. No longer yours. The cot's already being stripped. You take nothing but the broken trident shard hidden beneath it. You step out. No cheers. No sandals for sale. Just a city when not loud, dirty, indifferent. You walk past a group of merchants. One says, "Didn't that used to be the Thunderer?" The other shrugs. "Doesn't look like much." You keep walking. Because they're not wrong. You're not the Thunderer anymore. You're just a man. And for the first time in years. That's enough. You don't remember the exact moment the injury happened. A twist, a lunge, that final roll before the shield strike? It doesn't matter. What matters is that now, after it's all over, after the scrolls have been signed and the crowd has vanished, you can't lift your right arm without pain screaming up your neck like a whip. You try to laugh it off. Occupational hazard, you mutter to no one in particular. But it doesn't go away. Not after the poultices, not after the oils, not after the third cup of honeyed wine the old healer hands you with a grim look and the words, "Might help, might not." Welcome to the reality of being a retired gladiator. You're no longer expected to fight, but you're still expected to look heroic, hobbling across the forum with a bad shoulder and a face everyone remembers as younger. And here's the real kicker. You're not free of Rome's expectations just because you're free of the arena. They still want you to show up at dinners, at games, at openings of new fountains you had nothing to do with. You're a relic now, a walking statue, a proof of glory past. People stop you in the street. "Do the roar," they say. "The Thunderers roar." You never had a roar. It was just something a scribe made up. The crowd filled in the rest. Now, it's part of your legend. You try it once, your voice cracks, they cheer anyway. But off the stage, it's different. Your joints ache in the cold. The wound from your last fight still oozes sometimes. You sleep less, you drink more. You miss the routine, the purpose, not the fights themselves, but the clarity. In the arena, things were simple. Survive, win, repeat. Out here, there's too much time. You wake before dawn like always. No horn, no summons. Just the sound of pigeons and your own rusted breath. You walk because you don't know what else to do. At the edge of the city, there's a little training yard where the young ones still spar. Sometimes they let you watch. Sometimes they ask for tips. One boy, maybe 16, wants to know your favorite kill. You look at him. He's bright-eyed, eager, holding a wooden blade like it's holy. You say, "The ones that didn't happen." He doesn't understand. That's fine. He will. One day, he'll look back and realize the real victories weren't in the cheers. They were in the hesitations. The times you could have ended it, but didn't. The split-second decisions that made you something better than just a tool with arms. The worst part isn't the pain, it's the irrelevance. You pass the same marketplace where your face once covered every jar and jug. Now, nothing. A new face is painted on the stalls. Some fresh champion with golden hair and a nickname like the Lion's Smile. You hope he survives. You meet a fan, not a merchant, not a senator's daughter, just a baker's boy. He says, "I used to pretend I was you." You ask him, "Do you still?" He shakes his head, "Not anymore." You smile. That's how it should be. Historians debate whether retired gladiators felt joy or despair in their new lives. Some went on to teach, others disappeared. A few became drunks. A rare few, politicians. One allegedly started a cult that believed pain was a form of communion with the gods. You get it, because pain is your closest companion now. You hide it well, you've had practice, but some days you can't lift your cup without wincing, and the scrolls that once praised your strength now ask for your opinion on other people's fights. They want you to comment, to analyze, to become the voice of the past. You give short answers. Good form. Solid shield work. Could have died better. You think about disappearing entirely, buying a boat, leaving the city, letting the Thunderer dissolve into rumor. But part of you stays because maybe, just maybe, there's someone watching who needs to see what comes after the thunder. The storm always ends. No one teaches you how to be a quiet sky. So you learn on your own. You visit the old barracks one night. It's empty, dusty. The gear rack where you used to hang your armor is still there. A new name is carved above it now. You run your fingers across the wood. You whisper, "Take care of him." Because someone has to. You step out, your shoulder burning like fire. The stars are out. You remember how you used to pray to them, beg them for survival, for strength, for a legacy. They gave it to you. And now they're silent. Just like you. Some nights you wake up mid-shout. The cot soaked with sweat, your arms curled protectively over your ribs, and for a moment, just a moment, you don't know where you are. The sand is gone. The roar is gone. But the fight, still there. In your breath, in your bones, in the way your fists clench before your brain even catches up. They don't tell you this part. That even after the arena leaves you, it stays inside. You light a small oil lamp, sit at the edge of the bed, your knee cracks, your shoulder pulses, you touch the scar along your side, trace the jagged line that once defined a victory. Now it just itches when it rains. Some nights you wish you'd kept one of the old helmets, not to wear, just to remind yourself that it was real, that you weren't dreaming all those years, that the blood was yours, and the cheers were for something you actually did. But you gave everything away. That was the deal. You climb to the rooftop. Rome stretches below in soft torchlight, a living, breathing thing. You watch the alley cats prowl. You hear the carts creak, the drunk laughter spilling from a tavern 2 streets over. And then a sound. Sharp, sudden. Someone fighting. You lean over the edge. Below, in a shadowed courtyard, 2 boys are sparring with sticks, sloppy, too wide. One falls dramatically and laughs so hard he forgets to get up. You smile. That used to be you. Except it wasn't a game. It was everything. Your reputation, your food, your future. One bad fight and you were either forgotten or buried. You head back inside. The cot is cold now. You don't bother lying down. Instead, you open the small wooden box beneath the table, the one you swore you wouldn't touch. Inside, relics. A strip of torn leather from your first gauntlet, the wax doll you pretended to hate but couldn't bring yourself to burn, and a folded note, old, brittle. You unfold it. The handwriting is messy, eager. It says, "You're the reason I believe monsters can be beautiful." You never knew who sent it, but it stayed with you, not for the flattery, for the truth. You were a monster, a beautiful one, not by choice, by construction. Rome builds you that way. And when it's done, it forgets. You walk to the fountain near the old training grounds. A newer champion is being celebrated there now. His name is on the banners. His armor glows in fresh paint. Terran the Golden. You know him, fought him once during his first year. He was scared, quick, but scared. Now he's the Golden Boy. They asked you to write a scroll about him, a tribute. You refused. He'll get enough of those. Instead, you write something else. Just a line on a slip of parchment. Don't let them turn you into a statue before you're dead. You leave it on the bench beside the fountain. Maybe he'll find it. Maybe he won't. But it helps somehow. You've been walking a lot lately, out to the edge of the city, into the hills. Your body doesn't like it. The joints complain, the muscles groan, but your mind, quiet, at peace. Out there, no one calls your name. No one asks for autographs or stories or reenactments. Just trees, birds, the sound of your own breath. Sometimes you stay overnight, curled under a rough blanket, watching stars you used to pray under. You wonder if they remember you. You talk to them still. "Do you know who I am?" you ask. The stars don't answer. That's fine. Because you do. And some days, that's enough. Historians write about your time like it was poetry. The golden age of the arena, the rise of the thunderer. You've seen their scrolls, the ones that skip over the mornings you couldn't lift a spoon or the nights your hands trembled too much to braid your own sandals. They remember the victories, the poses, the speeches. You remember the silences. The ones where you were too tired to speak. The ones where you almost quit. The ones that came after everyone stopped cheering. You still fight, in little ways. You help train 1 or 2 youths now, quietly, no fanfare, no mention of who you were. They just call you old man. You like that. One of them, A girl with a crooked jaw and no sense of balance asked you yesterday, were you ever afraid? You nodded. Every fight, every step, every time someone said, this next one will be the big one. She looked surprised. But you never showed it. No, you said, that's why I'm still here. Because surviving isn't about never being afraid. It's about learning how to carry fear without letting it own you. You think maybe that's what you'll teach them. Not just how to fight, but how to leave the fight behind. Someday, you catch your reflection in a bronze tray. For a second, you don't recognize it. The scar above your eyebrow from a trident handle, the crooked nose, never quite reset after the match with the Nubian, the lines near your mouth, not from smiling, from clenching. You look older than you are. You feel older than you are. Because Rome doesn't let its champions age quietly. It lets them fade loudly. You step outside and feel it in the wind. That shift, that sense that the city's no longer orbiting you. The children no longer chant your name. The murals have been painted over. The vendor with the wooden dolls has replaced your likeness with Terran the Golden. You glance at it, they've given him wings. Wings. You never had wings. All you had was will. You try not to be bitter. This is how it goes. You've seen it before, dozens of times. Fighters celebrated like gods one season, ignored the next. Names that once carried weight now whispered like half-forgotten spells. Even you're guilty of it. There was a time when you couldn't recall the name of the man who trained you. Just old teeth and bad knees. His name was Sartorius, you remember now. He taught you how to breathe through a broken nose. He died in silence. You promised yourself you wouldn't. And yet, when a group of youths walk past you without turning their heads, it stings. You cough loudly. They don't glance back. The shift has happened. You're no longer feared. No longer admired. Just there. You wonder, is this freedom or just another kind of cage? One where the bars are made of silence and memory. You find yourself spending more time alone. Not by choice at first, but then it becomes habit. You sit by the river in the mornings, feed the birds stale crust, watch the world move without you. Sometimes you whisper your old routines out loud, right foot forward, shield up, breathe. It makes you feel connected, like the past isn't just something rusting on a rack. Historians call this phase the decline. They write scrolls about how legends slip into irrelevance, usually framing it as a noble, graceful fade. They don't describe the actual experience, the bruises that don't heal, the stares that never come, the hunger to be seen, not just remembered. You visit the Forum during a festival. You think maybe someone will recognize you. They don't. A young boy walks past holding a new doll, Terran again, gilded, wings spread wide. You force a smile. You see your old sponsor at a booth selling imported wine. He waves vaguely, distracted. Thunderer, you're looking, well, retired. He turns to the next customer before you respond. You leave before the music starts. That night, the dreams return, but they've changed. It's not the arena anymore. It's the crowd leaving, thousands of sandals walking away. You stand alone, still armored, still ready. But there's no one left to fight, not even shadows. You wake up gripping your blanket like a shield. The next morning, you light a small fire in your courtyard. You take out the last remnants of your old life, the scrolls, the faded tunics, the commemorative cup with your face carved into the base. You burn them. Not because you hate who you were, because you're ready to stop clinging to it. The fire crackles, ash flutters, and for the first time in a long time, you feel light. Later that day, a boy knocks at your gate, the same one from the training yard, the one with the wooden sword and the defiant chin. I want to learn, he says. They say you were the best. You look at him. You see the hunger, the fire. You see yourself. You nod. Come back tomorrow. Bring real boots. He grins. And just like that, the world starts turning again. Not around you, with you. You won't be the center anymore, but maybe, just maybe, you'll become the kind of silence that teaches others to roar. And maybe that's better. Maybe that's what legends are supposed to do. not last forever, but past the flame. You never meant to return. Not to this part of the city, not to the towering stone, the iron-gated passage, the wide open ring of dust and ghosts. The arena. But here you are. Not as a fighter, not as a performer, as something stranger, something in between. An honored guest. That's what they called it in the scroll. Honoratus spectatorum. They even offered a cushion for your seat and a roasted duck afterward. You declined both. You didn't come for comfort. You came because you had to know. Had to see it without you in it. The crowd is already forming when you arrive. You move through them like smoke, slow, unseen, just another old man in a wool cloak. No one recognizes you, or if they do, they say nothing. That's its own kind of kindness. Inside, the arena hums. It's always had a rhythm, even in silence. The sand looks the same, but the banners are new. Terran's face, blown up across red silk, glares down with divine smugness. The text below reads, "The smile that struck down giants." You mutter, "I never smiled during a match." Someone beside you chuckles, an old woman with a face like sun-baked leather. "I remember you," she says. You glance at her. "Do you?" She nods. "You didn't smile, you gritted." Fair enough. The fanfare begins. Trumpets, dancers, painted doves released into the sky, which immediately confuse and soil two senators in the front row. Poetic justice. Then the fighter appears. Taran. You don't hate him, not really. He's good, strong, trained, theatrical in a way you never had the luxury to be. He swings his blade in a wide arc. The crowd cheers. He bows. They love him. You're surprised how little jealousy you feel. It's not your stage anymore. The match begins. It's clean, crisp, choreographed down to the boot heel placement. You can see the practice in every move. It's beautiful, precise. It's also safe. You know that look in the opponent's eyes, the one that says, "I know I'm not allowed to win." You feel something in your chest, not anger, not bitterness, sadness. This isn't a fight, it's theater. You remember the days when a wrong step meant real blood, when the roar of the crowd meant something, not just applause on cue, when you locked eyes with someone across the sand and knew, only one of us leaves. Historians will say the matches evolved, became refined, safer, smarter. You're not sure they got better. You stay for the end. Terran wins, of course, clean blow, perfect form, not a scratch. The crowd goes wild. He holds up his arms, he smiles, and for just a moment he looks up, toward your section. You don't know if he sees you, but he nods. Small, subtle. A gesture between ghosts. You nod back. Afterward, you leave quietly, no duck, no wine. You walk the long road out of the city. There's a hill not far from the eastern gate, quiet, windy. You go there sometimes. At the top is a stone bench, cracked, mossy, and somehow more loyal than any man you ever fought beside. You sit. From here, you can see everything. The arena in the distance, the smoke of the market, the temple shimmering in the late sun, all the places that once knew your name. They don't need to anymore. You've made peace with the forgetting. Because it's not about them remembering. It's about you knowing. You did it. You faced the beast, the blades, the crowd, the crushing weight of a name they never let you put down. And still, you stood. That was the last roar. Now comes the whisper. You find the fig tree by accident. It's tucked at the edge of a crumbling villa. Half forgotten, sun-warmed, leaning slightly as if even it's tired of standing straight. The fruit is small, dusty, perfect. You pluck one, take a bite, and sit beneath the low branches. And just like that, you stay a while. No armor, no crowd, no expectations. Just a taste of something sweet that doesn't want anything from you. You've been wandering more, not far, just out of habit. You know the city by heart, every crack in the cobblestones, every crooked shrine, every shortcut from the baths to the butcher. The streets don't care who you are. They never did. That's what you love about them. You walk past your old training ground. It's full of new faces. They don't know you. Good. One of them is doing a drill wrong. You almost correct him, but he'll figure it out, or he won't. You've learned to let go. You pass the mural wall. Your mural's gone now, painted over. A new one has taken its place. Terran again, of course. This one's better than the last. His chin is impossible. His muscles geometrically unachievable. You don't feel jealous. You feel grateful. Because you finally stepped out of the myth. You are no longer a face on a banner. You are no longer a brand or a statue or a scream in the sand. You are you. And it turns out that's enough. You meet an old friend by the aqueduct, Darius, still sparring, still yelling at recruits. He sees you, grins, and tosses you a practice sword. You hesitate, then catch it. And suddenly, the rhythm returns, the weight, the balance. You move like it's all muscle memory, because it is. He lunges, you block, he laughs. You're slower. You're uglier. You both grin. After a few exchanges, you drop the sword, sit on the ground, catch your breath. You miss it? He asks. You think, no, you say, but I respect it. That night, you visit the garden one last time. The statue of you has been moved to the edge, near the laurels. Less traffic there. It's chipped, faded, birds nest in your helmet. Perfect. You sit beneath it. Not to pray, not to mourn, just to be. You think of all the things they never wrote in the scrolls. The way your boots chafed in the rain. The sting of a cracked tooth during a speech. The servant who brought you bread after your worst match and said nothing but you did your best. The time you almost quit. The time you almost stayed quit. The time a stranger wrote to say they weren't brave, but they were trying, and it was because of you. Historians didn't capture any of that. But you remember, and that's enough. You sleep well now, not because the pain's gone, it hasn't. Not because the memories have faded, they haven't. You sleep well because you no longer owe yourself to a crowd. You walk the city at night like a ghost and no one stops you. No one gasps, no one points. And that silence, it doesn't ache. It soothes. You once asked the stars if they remembered you. Now, you know they don't have to. Because you do. And that is peace. You watch the sun rise behind the Colosseum. The golden light cuts through the archways like a sword through fog. The city stirs. And somewhere, in some arena, a new fighter steps into the sand for the first time. Let him shine. Let them cheer. Your time is over. And still, you stood. You lived. You endured. And now, you rest. The wind is softer now. You feel it along your arms as you sit alone on the steps of an old temple, the kind no one prays in anymore. The torches have burned low, casting long shadows, gentle and shapeless. Rome hums quietly in the distance, a living thing at rest. And you're finally resting too. You don't need the crowd anymore. You don't need the roar. You don't need the armor or the title or the weight of expectation stitched into every thread of your old tunic. You don't even need the name Thunderer. Because when all of that falls away, what's left is you. The man who stood, who bent but didn't break. The man who carried silence like a blade. The night deepens. The stars bloom like slow fire above the rooftops, and for the first time in years, you don't wonder what comes next. You don't search the sky for signs. You don't grip the edges of your bench like it might vanish beneath you. You just sit and listen. The city exhales. The world leans into stillness. Somewhere, a lyre plays a soft note. A fig drops from a tree without a sound. A cat curls under a torch bracket, purring softly as it dreams. You are not alone, not really. You are part of this quiet now, a piece of it, a ripple that moved through the world and has now found its place in the pool. This is not forgetting. This is returning. To stillness. To simplicity. To peace. You close your eyes. Not in pain, not in fear, just in comfort. The kind of comfort that comes when you no longer have to prove anything. The kind that finds you when you've already given the world everything it asked for, and more. You are not a statue, you are not a shadow. You are just a man, breathing, finally, without armor. Let that be enough. Let the night carry you softly. Let the silence hold you. And let sleep come, quiet, deep, and without fear. Because you've earned it. Sweet dreams, Thunderer. The arena is behind you now. Only the stars remain.